Life After the Fight is a show that speaks to everyday issues pertaining to our mind, body, and soul. We will address topics ranging from mental health, self care, fatherhood, family, relationships, and more. Our goal is to encourage listeners to keep fighting through the obstacles, challenges, and struggles. The focal point is simple: seek a fresh perspective, become teachable, and improve your overall health and wellness. If you're craving more growth and development, this podcast is for you.
All right, we're back. Life after the fight. What's going on, George?
Nada, just actually, yeah, a lot, but some of it I'm not even aware of. So I'll just say it's all good. It's all good.
Well, we decided to bring back our guest from the last show, Miss Vicky Plumber. She gave some very good perspective on the dynamics of women being the breadwinner, and how to communicate effectively when finances shift in a marriage and a relationship. And so, based on popular demand, we want to bring you back. And so, we want to dig into another topic that I think the audience would really appreciate, and it has to do with marriage. Considering you've been married, you said almost 30 years, what, 27?
Well, I've been married 27,
Yes.
together 34.
34. Okay,
Yeah.
great. So let's get right into it. Let's talk about it.
Okay.
One topic that I think will really bring home the dynamics of how to resolve relation problems in relationships that have to do with insecurity is, can jealousy and envy ruin a marriage? Now, before you even expound on that, I do have one question. Okay. Can jealousy be noticed as a red flag at the beginning of the relationship or into the relationship?
Well, most of the red flags that pop up were there before you started noticing them. Sometime you heard of that term or that um, little slogan that says "Love is blind."
Mhm.
It truly is. Okay,
So people just ignore the red sign.
sometimes
Yeah.
you see them,
Mhm.
but they aren't they're subtle, but they become more prevalent the longer that you're in a relationship and the longer you have an opportunity to assess who a person really is. So a lot of times people will be in a relationship and they go, "Oh, I didn't see that." But then after years, they go, "Oh, yeah, I saw that." But that wasn't considered a red flag at the time because you were all Google eyes and in love. Okay, so you didn't see it, but they were there. And if you look back, I'm sure there are people in your lives, friends and family, that may have seen them as well, and they will point them out before you even recognize them. So it's always in the back of your head. You just have to determine how you're going to walk with it, how you're going to assess it, what you're going to do about it, if you're going to do anything about it at all. But red flags are generally there because most people, if they go on an interview or anything, everybody is always on their best behavior. Dating and getting married is no different. Okay.
So let me ask you this, and let's just stay on the red flag part, because I want to know this from a woman's
Mhm.
perspective. When a woman notices a red flag, why do most times they either ignore it or don't really address it?
Because some of the red flags you have to really assess and identify, if that red flag a red flag because it happened before and it's luggage that you're bringing in, or is that a
Mhm.
new red flag? You have to really be honest with yourself,
Mm.
because a lot of times, and men do it as well, you don't do it on purpose, but um, when you get involved with a relationship, there are similarities that you get with that person, believe it or not, because they had a similarity to someone before. They either remind you of your mother or they remind you of a previous girlfriend, and you don't pay attention to those red flags. They're there. They're not as definitive as they would be if you were really paying attention. Okay, if you go out for a mate and to say this is going to be a mate for my life because of what they're bringing to the table. We're equally yoked. Most people don't think about that. It's just like my son. I mentioned I have a 39-year-old, and when he was young and the girls were all over him, he's all excited. He was the man, but I try to guide him and go, don't chase the women, chase your dream, chase your money. The women will be there. Okay, so that's kind of what I'm looking at. You don't always see those red flags at the beginning. They really kind of surface or resurface incrementally. Okay, because if you saw them all at the beginning, you would run the moment you saw them. So they're paced out. But the thing is you have to um, pay attention to make sure the red flag that you're seeing isn't the same red flag over and over again, and you just elect not to, do anything about it. Most folks don't do anything about it due to fear. Okay, fear of losing someone,
So I
that
have
type
to,
of thing.
insert something here. So would that be willful or woeful?
Willful or wrongful?
Willful
Hmm.
or woeful? And let me explain what I mean by that. It's because there are things that occur in people's lives that they willfully don't see because they don't want to see.
They don't want to.
Because the woeful part comes in. If I see this and bring it to their attention, then I have a fear of loss.
Lost. Mm-hmm.
That's all.
That's all. Well, you know what? I can use myself as example, okay,
Please
because
do. Please do.
I know me better than anybody.
Yes, you
Okay,
do.
so um, let's just say I've been in a relationship, whether it's in the past or current, and I've seen red flags, but they were subtle. They were very subtle. But now today, I see more definitive red flags that were attributed to those subtle ones. Okay.
Mm.
Now, had I paid more attention to it at that time, I would have been better off. But again, like I said, when you're in a relationship or are you dating and you're having fun, you kind of ignore those things. And
Mhm.
then as you grow into that relationship and you get older, some things you just say to yourself, it is not worth it. It's not my time. I don't want to deal with that. But you have to, because ultimately you are. And especially with, I know with women, if we're stressed, that generally will show like in our skin, our hair, our demeanor, because we're holding it in. We're holding it in because of fear of making it bigger. And what happens is you got to be really, really careful, because that's how most women want to know how they end up marrying a narcissist. It was already there. Okay.
So let me
Okay.
ask you a question then.
Hmm.
Since relationships are cultivated, and metaphorically speaking, I'm going
Mhm.
to use a garden. If you plant carrots, tomatoes, what have you, as soon as you see weeds start growing up, you start plucking those weeds because you don't want it to mess up your vegetable,
Correct.
which is your relationship. But if you let the weeds grow, they'll start choking out those vegetables, which is your food source. Again, metaphorically, your relationship. So wouldn't you say it's better off to, if you saw that early on, to go ahead and address that, even if it could be a false flag? He said, listen, I noticed that you do thus and so. I'm bringing this to your attention because it's not something that's going to work long lasting for me. So is this part of the nature of who you are, or is it something that you've acquired that you're not even aware of?
Well, you know what I truly think is that a lot of times the reason why it's not addressed like at the very beginning during that pruning stage is because you're not even paying attention to it. You don't even care. Really, you
Okay.
don't care.
Okay.
Okay. You don't
Okay.
That's a good point.
you
Yeah.
don't even
Okay.
see it. Like I said, when you are in like with someone or in love with
Or
someone,
in
that's
lust.
and then are in
Yeah.
lust. Okay. The thing is a lot of times you're not paying attention to those red flags, because by the end, at the end of the day, truly you don't even know if you're going to stay with that person. So do it really matter? Okay.
Okay.
So if it doesn't
Fair enough. That's valid.
matter, yeah, it's like, okay, that's good for the now, but this isn't somebody I want to spend the rest of my life with. Otherwise, I would have checked it, coming through the door.
Okay.
Okay.
But like
Yeah.
I said, when you're in a relationship, it's just like going to a job interview or on that first date. It's
You just
it's
want to
a,
get the job.
you just want to get it. Okay, let's just be
So
honest. Okay,
so
just
so so let me ask you this for the marriage sake, for those individuals, and I'm speaking for the married people,
hmm
okay? Those married individuals out there who are married and been married for some years,
hmm
and they did see some of those red flags and they were subtle at the beginning,
hmm
but because of the love, like, and all, and they just kind of ignored it. But then now, as they've gotten far into the relationship, years in, and those red flags now are very apparent and it's starting to impact the woman,
hmm
okay? Because this is from a woman's perspective.
hmm
It's starting to impact the woman. Now, the woman has tried to communicate, tried to have a conversation with their husband, and they've tried to address those issues, and there has been no participation, no response on resolving or answering and addressing. What would you say to those women?
Okay, I would say women be careful.
Mhm.
Okay, and the reason why I say that is because when I think of the woman doing everything that she can and she's not getting out of it what she thought or what
It's not
she
being reciprocated.
right again it starts to be the boundary. So you can do one or two things. One is you can say, hey, A, B, C, and D. I need these things to change. Okay. And if they don't change, this is what's going to happen. The thing that women run into, and I've done it myself, if you will say, if you don't do this, then I'm going to do that. First and foremost, relationships have to be reciprocal. You can't just
Yeah.
say, I'm going to be with, because most people want to be with you for a specific reason. Okay. You got to get that out of the way and you have to say, okay, these are my boundaries. Now, if that person doesn't adhere to those boundaries, you do have a couple of choices. Now, one, if you really love that person, you continue to try. But then if that person doesn't adhere to that level of reciprocation, then you push back. Okay, you've already established a boundary, and then you live your life according to those boundaries. Okay, and this is where our mistake generally is when you love someone, okay, and especially if you're a Christian, okay, you really try to make sure things work. A lot of times they don't. And I think what's really important, not just for women, but I'm speaking from a woman's point of view, because we care, and especially if it's a woman worth her grain of salt,
Hmm.
she's taking care of her man, she's taking care of the children, the household, whatever. Okay, if you have someone in your life like that, what happens more times than not is as a woman, you will give that man 99 times. Okay, this is the 99th time. And now, when that 100th time come and that woman walks, that man is in shock. Okay, that is why you have to continue communicating crisp, concise communication consistently. And that's what I always say because it's you got to make sure that you're telling them and that they understand. Do you understand the words coming out of my mouth? Okay. Okay. This is what's going to happen. And you got to really put forth the effort. Don't say, um, if you see some incremental change, applaud that person for that. Okay. Because what you may be asking for may truly be something that he or she is incapable of giving. Okay. And you won't know that until you really take the time, like you said, to cultivate the relationship.
Hmm.
So if you continue to tell a person something and they don't adhere to any of it, then you've already lost them. Okay. Because they don't respect you and they don't really care about what you're thinking or what you're doing. And if they don't care about that, what are you there for anyway? You just have to make some hard decisions and you really have to ask yourself the hard questions. Like, for example, he didn't do this, so I'm gonna leave. Is that childish? What are you, 12? Is it you really
Yeah.
gotta make sense out of it. If it's something
Is it
that's
childish or an unexpressed agenda?
could be. You gotta like a lot of times when I just chatting with people and they ask questions or they want to do something, I go, Well, first, why don't you sit back and assess what that person's ultimate motive truly is? Okay. And so once you've had an opportunity to do that, it may just be to be together. But as a woman, and I'm not saying that a man should make this assessment as well, look back and go, okay, hey, I didn't spent the last 5 years asking this person to meet me halfway, and they either don't care about what I say, refuse to do so, or just don't have no level of respect for me at all. And if that is the case, you have to flip the script and truly ask yourself, be honest. If you were to leave, or even if he were to leave, what would you be missing? Okay, that's what my question would be.
Mm.
What would you be
Well,
missing
that's
if
why I
that?
say unexpressed agendas, because
Yeah.
it gets to a point where you should say, okay, we're together, but what was your agenda for being with me?
Mm.
Well, you kind of do end up figuring it out, okay? Because I think love
But you figure
actually
it out, or is
y-
that just an assumptive move when you're apart?
could be either or. I mean, it just depends on,
I'm just asking
No, oh
questions.
no, it could be either or. It just depends. But like you said, if you're asking,
Mhm.
you guys are partners, okay?
Yeah.
So if a partner can't meet you halfway, he already have a different agenda.
So let's
Okay.
let's rest on partners. Okay.
Okay.
Is it possible? Because we're getting back to the topic of
Mhm.
jealousy and envy. Is it possible for life partners, married couples, to experience jealousy and envy? And if so, how does that impact a marriage?
It does. Oh my God, jealousy and envy can destroy a marriage. Okay. However, I truly do believe that subtle jealousy is healthy. Okay. Like subtle jealousy, your man
Example.
or your
Yeah. Give me an
woman
example. Yeah.
walking across the room and someone else is like staring at them, and
Okay.
then the significant other gets a little jealous, but in their mind, that's like theirs. Okay. So they feel a little good, or they may feel a little jealous. And if you see your spouse get a
Mhm.
little jealous, sometimes that can be healthy. That can be
So what about the
exciting.
overt type? What
But
about the type that is just blatant of, you
I think
know,
that's a huge distraction in a
yeah.
relationship. I think it will disrupt the relationship, and it will ultimately impact the relationship in a negative, derogatory
How
way.
do you address it as the wife? And the reason why I say that is because let's say, okay,
Hmm.
as busy as you are
Hmm.
and involved in a lot of different types of organizations and programs, you're going to meetings, you're meeting girlfriends out, for drinks, whatever. You're involved.
Hmm.
And of course, you like to dress well, smell good, like you're a bona fide woman.
Thank you, thank you,
You know what I'm
thank
saying?
you.
Okay, so check this out. So your man, and just an example,
Okay.
your man has a problem with you looking the way you are when you leave the house and always being involved. And now you're telling him everything you're going. I mean, you're like, hey, this is where I'm going. If you want something to eat, I'll bring, like, you doing your part. How do you deal with a man who expresses jealousy
In a
toward in
way,
a way that makes you now feel like, okay, do I stay? Do I go? Do I come back early? Like,
okay.
because a lot of women struggle
Listen,
with that.
I've
That-
I've
And
I've
so,
done that
yeah. So
myself.
how do you deal with it?
Whew. Like I said before, very carefully. Okay,
Let's talk to the
so
audience. Give some example. How you deal with it?
so the bottom line, based on my assessment on things that have happened to me, when you have someone that's that overtly jealous and envious, it's really not about the jealousy and the envy as much as it is about the insecurity. Okay. And what I would do, because that's very, very detrimental, to a relationship, um, you have to really, really speak to that person that's behaving like that, because that's not normal. And I really do believe it comes from not a hidden agenda, but a deeply rooted something else, like maybe the way that a person was brought up, maybe not just how that person was brought up,
Mhm.
but what that person is missing and still missing. Okay. You have to draw the lines and identify the boundaries. Are you going to be my man? Are you going to be my woman? Are you going to be my spouse? Or are you going to be my child? Which one do you want to be? And you really have to get a
So
good answer.
you're having
Yeah,
that
I've had
conversation.
that conversation, and
Okay.
I will
Okay.
continue to have those conversations, because I truly do believe that it's healthy dialogue and it's necessary in the effort to get where you want. Okay, because most people don't know where they're going, but they know what they don't want. Okay, so I just think when a person gets that jealous, okay, and that envious, it can become dangerous, because sometimes a person isn't like hitting you or punching you, but they're emotionally and verbally, abusing you. It's still abuse. Either way you look
Definitely.
at it, still abuse.
Definitely.
That's not someone that you want to be with, but if it's someone that you are truly in love with, you got to seek counseling. You got to seek to understand where that person is coming from, because there's something missing. And that happens with in a lot of relationships. Let's say, for example, like me, I grew up basically, with my mom. Okay. So I've seen her struggles, I've seen her challenges, and by all means, I've seen her sacrifices. So, me looking at that growing up, that's not something that I want to do. So, I want to structure my life, gear my life, do what it is that I need to do to be the best that I can.
You didn't want
Okay.
to replicate what you saw.
Right. And so
Yeah.
and so sometimes it takes doing the counseling, because if we have to go to the dentist, we got a cavity, we go get it done. If we go to the hairdresser or you go get your hair cut, we get involved with things to make ourselves better, but we don't do it to make our relationships better, and we don't do it to get the mental help that we may need, that we may not even know exists, but is exhibited through that behavior.
exactly.
Okay. So I think, again, I'm going to always go back to how critical the level of communication is. And like I said, you may want something from someone that ultimately that person is just totally incapable of even providing.
Providing.
Okay. So that's where someone that has that core competency, that don't live with you, that can actually tell you the truth, because as your spouse or your significant other, you're going to always think they're coming after you. They're coming after you. But sometimes it takes someone else to take a look at the picture, outside of the relationship, because if it's just the two of you, no matter what the picture looks like, if you change that background, the frame is still going to remain the same, no matter what you do. So I just think that when a person is that jealous, and if it's to the point where they could ultimately hurt you or say something that you don't want to hear, you yourself have to pull back and also know that you don't have to stay in that relationship. Okay, don't ever be afraid to leave. Okay, because sometimes that's what is necessary in an
Yes.
effort for you to be not only happy, but to be healthy. And I think being
And to be
healthy
whole.
and to be whole
Yes.
is the ultimate goal, because you have to be a better you. So it's basically, I would ask myself, okay, if it is, to be, then ultimately it's up to me. Okay, so you have a say in how you live your life. You don't have to allow people to dump on you. But if you're truly like a Christian person, you love that individual, you really want to do everything you can to get them the help that they need. But the frightening part of it is the person that you're trying to get the help may be a narcissist, and they think you're the problem.
Yeah.
Okay, so they will never see that they need the help, because they're too busy saying why you're the problem for their behavior.
Yep.
So I think you have to I have key things, that's really important to me. And it just comes down ultimately to that man or that woman being exactly who they are. Okay. And if they show you that that's who they are and they're not going to change, then you have the answer already. You just can't be afraid to leave. And you really got to be truthful and ask yourself, well, what happens if he leave, or what happens if I leave? What are you really missing? What
Fear.
Fear can also be a motivator. So,
It can be, but
yeah.
fear for the most part, my
Like when women want to leave and they
Women,
can't
men,
be,
men
because
fear.
it could be finances, it could be the
Fear of the
children.
unknown.
Of the
Mhm.
known. Yeah.
When I don't have this, what do I have in its place? I don't know. So I'm going to stay with the familiar.
Comfort. Familiarity is comfort for a lot of people.
Yeah, but
I'll give you an example. Normally I wouldn't, because you're our guest, but I'll give you an example.
Mm-hmm.
Several years ago, I had a coworker, and because I knew a little bit about her background and the types of men that she had dated and so forth, she was dating a gentleman that he sent flowers to the office, and he even came by once or twice. Very nice guy. And the thing that I said to her, I said, "Whatever you do, don't hurt him." She looked at me quizzically and said, "What? Don't hurt him? What do you mean don't hurt him?" I said, "You're not used to this type of treatment. It's unfamiliar to you." And within a month and a half, I hadn't seen him. I had no flowers. I said, "What happened?" "Oh, he was too weak. He sent me. He was this and that." He was being a perfect
He was
gentleman.
being perfect.
But because she was not
Not
used to
accustomed to
that
that.
kind of
Wasn't used to it.
treatment, she went back to the guys who abused her.
Who abused her? Familiarity.
Right, but familiarity breeds that though.
Yes.
My thing is I've had to ask myself also because I've been in relationships where um there wasn't a level of reciprocation. I've been in relationships even where it was like physical, just growing up. I really have had an opportunity to see a lot more than I wanted to, but I came out of it victoriously. So I'm able to convey, okay, hey, I've seen this. Okay, so even if someone feels that, even through fear, you know, they're afraid to leave, ultimately it's just going to get worse. It doesn't
Mhm.
get better. It's just like that person that's hitting you for the first time, go, I'm sorry, and you forgive them 5,000 times and they do it again. Okay, it's just like that old slogan. Okay, if people show you who they are, believe
Believe
them,
them.
believe them, and
Yeah.
that is just really the
And you're the
bottom
first
line.
arbiter of how people should treat you. So if
Yeah,
you let them hit you,
yeah.
then you make it comfortable to be hit again.
Right. But then even so, look in the mirror and just say, what is it about you that you don't believe that you deserve to be loved? Okay.
It's a good
Okay.
question.
I mean, it's just no different than a cell. What vitamin do you think your body don't need? Or, what
Yeah.
in this box you think you're not entitled to,
Yes.
or, the same thing. I just think that jealousy and envy, like I said, if you allow it, it will destroy a relationship. And it's all about fear. And this is, I hear this word more often than I've ever heard it before. And that is the narcissist, type of relationship. I know what that looks like now. I truly do. And the thing is you have to be the strong one. Don't argue with someone that's going to keep arguing. Okay, you're not going to win.
You're not gonna
Okay,
win.
okay, you're not going to win. Okay, do what it is that's best for you ultimately, and that's going to make you healthy and what's going to make you whole. Okay, being the best that you can be is going to be the best for someone else. That means if you truly are being good to yourself, the best that you can be, that person that gets you ultimately gets you at your best. Okay. And that's a win-win as far as I'm concerned.
Well, listen. We're at the end of our programming, and so I want you to address, in closing, I want you
Mhm.
to address the audience for those women out there who are experiencing either envy, um, jealousy, or just a man who really is narcissistic, just really into himself, set in his ways. What would you say to a woman on how to prepare her exit if she's not getting the cooperation from her man after she's tried to communicate, convey how she feels, even recommended counseling, and all those things have been shut down? How does a woman prepare for her exit?
No matter what you do, okay, I feel that once you have established those boundaries, like you've conveyed, to your significant other, I can't handle this, I can't deal with this anymore, whatever it is, A, B, C, and D,
Mhm.
and you've conveyed that, and you have, seek to understand what it is and make sure that that person understand the words that are coming out of your mouth, what this means,
Mhm.
okay, if they don't do this, then you're no longer in alignment. So what you have to do is start doing the things that you need to do for your life to be better. And no matter what
Mm,
you do, don't go back on your boundary. Okay.
mm,
That is the main thing. Because what that does ultimately is it allows you to continue filling everyone else's cup up except for yours. And at the end,
mm.
you lose.
Say that one more
Okay.
time. Say that last part one more time. That was strong. Say it again.
If you don't even adhere to your own
Mm-hmm.
boundaries, you end up filling everyone else's cup up and leaving yours empty, pretty much. Okay. So
That's
there's just nothing. Okay.
yes.
So you
That's rich.
you have
That's rich.
to adhere to it. So you may say this person isn't changing, but guess what? I'm not going to change myself anymore to accommodate what it is that
Yes,
he's no
that
longer
he's
going
no
to
longer doing.
change.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's what you do. And then ultimately that person will either change or either they will leave. They might leave themselves. Okay.
Mm.
At the end of the day, guess what? You still win. Okay. So that's how I look at it.
Unless
It's
you're the breadwinner.
oh, okay. That's another conversation.
That was
I'm
wrong.
sorry.
That
That
was
was
wrong,
That
George.
wrong.
very
That was
That was
wrong.
wrong.
You had to do that at the end of the end
Right.
of the program. You just had to throw that in there.
Right, because
You paying the bills, I ain't going nowhere.
okay. that reminds me of my a former pastor that I used to have. It was so funny. He used to say if his wife were to leave, that's okay. He'll be right behind her. Okay, so
Yeah.
yeah, he would
Yeah.
always say that. And she may look out and I might look at her and she'll have her luggage, but guess what?
Mm.
I have mine too. Okay.
There you go.
So
There you go.
like I said, it's really about the limitations and the restrictions, and of course, those boundaries that you establish for yourself. But you have to make sure that if no one else is going to respect them, that you respect them
There you
because
go.
they're your boundaries. Okay. And
Good stuff, Vicky.
that's
Good
it.
That's
Mhm.
really good. Well, thank you so much for
You're most
coming
welcome.
to our show and blessing us with your fresh perspective from a woman's perspective and very honest, very transparent. I'm
Mhm.
sure the audience appreciates what you have to offer and to just speak openly because there's no right or wrong
There isn't.
answers or anything. It's just really being able to speak truthfully and to give people a fresh perspective, and that's what this show is about. So, we just want to say thank you. Me and George are very appreciative of that, and hopefully later down the road you can come back
Oh,
and spend some
absolutely. It'll be
time with
my
us. And
pleasure.
yeah,
It'll be
okay.
my pleasure. This time I'll come with my questions.
Oh, hey, that'd be fine with us. Mix it up a little bit. All right. Well, life after the fight. We just want to say thank you again, and until next time.
It's been a pleasure. It
Yes.
truly has, gentlemen. Thank you again for having me. I really appreciate it. And like you said, I hope that I was able to offer some women a different perspective. You're never in it alone. That's the
You
bottom
definitely
line. You're
brought
never in
different
it.
energy, and that's
Thank
what was
you.
necessary.
Yes.
Thank you so much. It's been great. It really has.
All right.
Okay.
Okay. Until next time. Life after the fight. Take care.